this or like this?
Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing, and I'm here today. I'm so excited to introduce you on Conscious Business Zone to Dianne Collins. Hi, Dianne.
Hi, Kathy and everyone. So great to be here.
Yes. So, Dianne, I'm very excited to introduce my audience to your amazing philosophy of life, is the way I'd like to call it. It's Do You Quantum Think? This is my book. It's from 2011. And I think I took your course, your online course with your husband about back then. Okay. So rather than me, I'll be glad to read part of your bio in a minute, but I'd rather have you talk about this amazing tool. That's it is. It is. I mean,
It's meant to be.
yeah.
It's meant to be used, and it's meant to be. Well, it is transformational. Whoops, excuse me on my voice there.
Well, we're just having tea or water together. That's good.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers,
everyone.
Hi, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us. So basically, Dianne, this book, it's called Do You Quantum Think? New Thinking That Will Rock Your World. It's highly, highly, highly awarded. Anyone that knows about it, and is using the magic of it. So how did you get the book?
How did it come about? Well, the book actually contains, it's two parts. And it's called, the first part, Wake Up, where I'm discussing the chapter the situation that we're in as a humanity. And let's say from my earliest memories, it's not about my life, but it's about where we are as a people together, at what stage of evolution are we, and that we've never really gotten along. And even though we have an infinite possibility universe. Anyway, let me get back to that. But the second part, Live the Wisdom, is actually the quantum think system of thinking, I call it. And it's 21 principles and practices for the mind and awareness that literally you create a conscious leap in consciousness. And because I had a revelation, and what happened, Kathy and everyone, is that when I would say teenage, I started looking in the world and thinking, did I get off on the wrong planet? Because I thought, right? I'm sure everyone had a feeling of that too. Because you look around and, you see in the news today, and of course it's more exposed today, but why is it that we have all the wisdom available to us, yet we're still not living it? So that was basically my quest. And I say that in every interview, hundreds of them by now, but that I wanted to know, how do we really create consciously? How do we create the life we want, the world we want, how to get along, how to live our purpose, all of it, how to be prosperous, wealthy, but for everyone. And rather than just talk about it or say, we should do this, everybody knows what to do, how to be, but there's a discrepancy, a gap between knowing it and actually living it.
Right.
So what Quantum Think came through me, as we all have we are all a unique channel of wisdom specific to us. I know that you know that, and people with us in this conversation know that. And it's one of the great joys of life to be able to discover what that is. So I used to go around saying, gee, I know something. There's something I have to get out. What is it? Well, as I say, I didn't choose quantum think, it chose me. And it came about because I had a revelation that then, it was related. So I thought, well, what's the leap in consciousness going to be for humanity? Well, it has to be spiritually based in some way, right? And I'm talking about universal wisdom common to all mastery traditions. And also that, but at the time, it's like, you can't go around saying, are you spiritual? You should be, and so I knew that wasn't going to work. And then I came across quantum physics, and specifically the book by Fritjof Capra, The Tao of Physics.
Oh, okay.
And a few other things at the time. And I thought, wow, well, this is cool, because the quantum physicists are now reconverging, right? Their research into the nature of reality as being consciousness-based, mind-based. When I use mind, I don't mean just the cognitive. I'm talking about what we hold in awareness.
Right.
So we could say the all-pervasive, one-mind consciousness, infinite intelligence, right, that becomes, I don't mean this in a negative way, but becomes contracted or individualized as our own mind. So we're simultaneously the immanent self, the self that some people call the ego or the identity, all the roles that we play. And at the same time, we are that infinite self where we know we're all connected. So when say, what is spirituality? To me, that's what it is. So I thought, well, people in society have, science has a certain credibility where people may not agree on spirituality or religion as one of the aspects of spirituality, as we well know, that what if I could use the science and to bring this all together? And then the other aspect of it is you come along, and you're reading and all the original, so many teachers and philosophers and scientists who said, as you think, so you become, right?
Right.
The Buddha said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. It's in the Bible, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So in the Upanishads, you can pick out these phrases. And then there were the people like, I can't think of their names right now, but you know who they are. The books that everybody reads to figure out how to create your reality through your thinking.
Wayne Dyer, Deepak
right. Later, Wayne Dyer. Exactly. Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, to me, they were the way showers to bring it into consciousness. But what you're doing, you actually land it. That's what I'm so excited about, Dianne. It's not, you listen to Barbara Marx Hubbard. I know she just passed, but she was a futurist and she had these brilliant ideas that expanded your consciousness, but she didn't really have a way to do it. You have a way to
right. Well, I feel like, thank you for recognizing that. I really appreciate that. And, Barbara, rest in peace. I don't think she's resting somehow. She's flying around. Hey, Barbara, but I was, honored and privileged she invited me to be a guest presenter on her Awaken the New Species series last year. And this year she was working on, and I know you had Stephen Donaco on, her co-host, on evolutionary ambassadors, and she invited me to be on there as well. And I know, and so funny, I didn't finish the important part of the story, but I'll get to that in a second. Well, let me finish it now.
Okay.
Because Alan, my partner and husband, partner in all things, master quantum think coach, he listens to my interviews and he says, Well, you went all around in circles. Well, he likes everything orderly. I'm a little bit stream of consciousness, which we're happy about here, right? But anyway, when I got to that, as you think, so you become, I realized that's where I had the revelation that though we imagine we think freely and independendently, for the most part, we don't, and that our thinking, like everything in the universe, takes place is in a system, as a system, and that the system is based on the overarching worldview. What is that? Very simply, what we believe to be true about the nature of reality, how it works, what the assumptions are. So we're in a quantum age, and this is still going on, even though everything we know, the light frequencies are coming in and people are opening up and the heart is opening up and the consciousness is opening up and people are becoming way more, interested in wanting to connect, probably because of the, what I call the crisis awakening going on right now. It's either going to be conscious or crisis. And right now we're still a little bit of both. But anyway, so this is what I had. And then I met Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, who people know, right? AKA Dr. Quantum, who's a dear friend. And he wrote the foreword to Do You Quantum Think? And we had conversations. And anyway, and I saw that from him that he said, one day we were in a conversation when we first met, and he said, scientists make discoveries. And by the way, this is in the first part of Do You Quantum Think? So scientists make a discovery, and then they invent new language. And then that language comes into our mind and into our thinking and into the culture through that new terminology. So I use the very, obvious example of a quantum leap, that came from Max Planck.
Right.
I think, right? Discovering that energy doesn't move in a smooth, continuous flow, but it leaps in bursts, in packets of energy that he called quanta. So then you realize that, and came into the English language, according to my research, around 1927. He discovered it before that. But then you realize, okay, well, could we even think of a quantum leap before that? Probably, we're too young for that, but no, because that distinction wasn't invented yet. And then it becomes very everyday colloquial. So it means in science, a shift in state, an instantaneous shift with no pathway there. There's no how to. How did it go from that to that? It's instantaneous. So what I do in Quantum Think is I blend the universal spiritual wisdom and insights from the new science, because we're still very much as a culture under the influence of industrial age thinking from the 17th century. Only physical matter is real, a mechanical cause and effect. But we're in a quantum age, multidimensional, not one-dimensional. Spiritual, esoteric, of the soul, the energy realm. There's so many dimensions more than what we're taught about in school, or that's why we call it, why do we call it alternative? It's not alternative. Right. So the leap, what I do in Quantum Think is make it practical, which you're pointing out. That's the purpose of all my work. I have a book, I have a video masterclass that it's online, but I'm really excited about. And we have also an audio program that was part of what you were in the live coaching program with Alan.
Right.
And using those distinctions that we recorded in audio. But anyway, this is the idea of Quantum Think, is that it's a mastery practice most of all. And I think, I'll tell you a funny story with Barbara, that she was doing last year, Waken the New Species, Barbara Marx Hubbard. And she So she was using her 52 codes
Right.
of co-create. What is it called? The 52 codes of co-creation?
It's over there.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And she had these 52 codes that channeled through her, and it was in a book. And so each week she was doing the 52 weeks. So when she invited, I think, 30 presenters and to be during the course of these 52 weeks, and I had a conversation with her, and she, I had all friends who you're friends with who knew, right? Gregory and Gail Hogue and Marion and Glenn Head. So I knew people who knew her, and then Sherry Herndon, I'm sure you know too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she asked the guests to choose which week, depending on your topic, that you wanted to be on. So I chose week number 31 of 52 because I thought, well, I haven't really, been on her shows before, and I want to see what are the other people going to do. So I chose that week. Barbara writes me a note. I want you to be the first guest. So I was like, what? Because I wanted to hear, how did she do it with the other people?
Right? Hot seat. You got the hot seat.
But anyway, and the reason I brought that up is, first of all, it's a funny story. But secondly, because she wanted me to talk about the power of intent, the way that I use it in quantum think. Intent not being a future goal, but an activation of the energy intelligent conscious field. And so, of course, being the wise woman she was, she knew that I would bring that in, so that at the beginning of this 52-week course that people were going through with her, she didn't like to call it a course, but an experience of an awakening, that we would be, of course, where does everything we create begin? With a consciously generated intent. So anyway, that was my story.
So I want to just interrupt you for a second and tell you what some people are commenting on. Olivia Parred said, hi, Dianne and Kathy. I loved my interview with you, Dianne, on Voice America a few years ago. And then
wait, I didn't hear who that was.
Olivia Parred. And you'll be able to see in the comments afterwards. She's delightful. She just
I know exactly who she is.
She just so great. Yeah, it's great. So and then we got Hermelio here. Thank you. And Noelle and Bob Warner are here and have said, I think it's all created just a question of us bringing it into our field of consciousness. And then Zach Bergen, who is a scientist, who I always love when because he usually really calls you out on stuff. It's really helpful. It makes us go deeper, is what I like. It's not a quantum age, he says. It's always been, and we create labels to talk about what is. Let's talk quantum by all means. He's trying to be funny. But what Zach is very, he's very conscious. And so he likes to bring out the point of us being creator gods, basically, and that we lost our way somehow. But you're taking people from even a business mindset or wherever they are, which maybe they notice a little bit of synchronicities or they do affirmations, but they don't know they're creator gods and they don't know how to be present enough to call it in yet. That's the key. The key is in the now, calling it in and then fueling it. So anyway, then Ken MacArthur wrote, hi, Kathy and Dianne, and I love Ken MacArthur. And then they're talking back and forth, and then Zach says, intent, manipulate the phrase of the fabric of space and create the illusion of locality experience. Then move into inner, and we no longer need to see the outer. It is taken care of. Anyway, you'll be able to see these afterwards too. But
Right.
thank you. And also Esther's here and Jonathan's here. So thank you all for coming. And Ken MacArthur has a fabulous project that you need to know about, this movie that he's funding. He only has yesterday at 84 hours, so he's got 60 more hours to fund it. So you might want to check that out.
Yeah, I will, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, so what I would love to see your idea of how we help more people make these conscious leaps. There's so much victimization thought in our society, and I work mostly with people that are self-employed, that are creators. I mean, they couldn't stand still if they wanted to. They couldn't follow the rules. They may not be always employable. is a nice way to, for short period.
Well, maybe not meant to be either.
Well, they're forces of nature. I mean, and I love them, and I really feel like they're to help empower everyone, because they're an example of that. Plus, the things that they share elevate so much. So how do we get from this mentality, this victim mentality that we've been in, at which you see all the conflict, all the contrast. I mean, contrast is good to make you aware, but I don't want to stay down in that fight. I want to bring more people up. And
Right, definitely. Well, I think that's a great question. And first, I want to thank everybody for being here. It's so great to see you. I'm trying to see you all. I see the little icon picture, but I'm very aware of your presence. And I think, Kathy, what you're saying is really key to what my interest in, and what happens is, Alan and I, my partner and husband, we always say, and I wrote this, changing the world one thought at a time or one idea at a time. I don't think so, because when this is the importance of the system, and I want to talk a little about some of the specifics where you leave behind victimhood very easily. But first, the system, to understand this, because the system is like a vortex. So that's why I call quantum thinking a system, because it's a literal, you're looking and living and thinking from a different set of assumptions. And Zach is, quite right in saying it's always been here. Everything that ever was, is, or could be is always here in the possible world. The possible world has existence, as the scientists say. And it's a question of, what are we manifesting? What are we bringing into the actual world? And we know there are distinctions, but no actual separations between anything.
Right.
So when we look at this was the importance of me getting it as a system, because I didn't finish the Fred Alan Wolf part, is that when he told me that about how the thinking changes, I realized my revelation, thank you, God, that came through me, was that it's a whole system. It's not one concept at a time. And it's not an either or. We're not trading in analytical logic, step-by-step, cause and effect, mechanical way of thinking for a quantum, spiritual, heart-based way of thinking. It's an expansion. However, the perspective shifts. So a system is like a vortex. When you walk into, and I give the very simple examples all the time of a road system where you walk into like a supermarket and you have your list and you don't have to look, where's the almond milk? Because it's a system, and the system embraces you and takes you with it and makes it easy. So that's the idea of quantum think, these 21 distinctions in new thinking, that it's a system. And once you get the system, and I know that you recognize this, because the very first principle is holistic and holographic. That's the first distinction in quantum thing. Holographic means the whole is contained in every smaller aspect of itself. So once you get one, in a sense, you get all of it. And so getting to the victimhood, because the second distinction is called observer created reality based on the observer effect. Right. That because there are two aspects of this. One is that there is no separation between ourselves, right, as the focal point of consciousness, and what we're observing, meaning not what we're seeing visually with the ordinary five senses, but observation, meaning what we hold in consciousness, what we hold in awareness. That, as in the spiritual literature saying, the world exists on the screen of your own consciousness. Right. The observed and the observer are one. Distinctions, but no actual separation. So when you look at, the observer effect, which the Heisenberg, where the science realized that the instrument of observation was having an effect on that which they were trying to study, to observe. And so when I make the adaptation, quantum think is not about science. It's about how the discoveries of science shape the way we think, have shaped the way we think, and how we can now proactively, consciously expand our perspective and make that leap, so that we're looking, it's like a leap, you're on the earth looking out at the rest of the cosmos. But what if you imagine yourself out there like an astronaut looking back at yourself on Earth? That we just enacted a quantum leap just now. It's going on all the time. Right. But we can do this consciously, and we do it as a system. So getting back to the observer effect, in quantum think, the second distinction is called observer created reality. Now, if you get this, you get everything. You'll never be a victim again. And I'll tell you, if you want to hear why and how, is that we're living in an observer created reality, as I was just discussing. So what I say is, what is the instrument of observation? Right. Well, we are. Our ideas, concepts, patterns from the past, you don't even know where they came from. I know in our analytical way, we try to say, well, when I was 2 years old, this happened, and therefore I'm this today. But we don't need that in quantum thinking. We can drop all that. And as you say, it's all about awakening in the present. Right. So observer created reality. Two things. One is the assumptions, beliefs, ideas that we bring to our observation, right? What do I think of President Trump? Well, I do want to talk about that, because I think it's important, but not in this moment. But it's like, what you bring is what you get. So I picked him, but you could pick anybody that you have, we think we're so conscious and aware, we're spiritual and all this. And then we have these judgments going on, and we're actually speaking these judgments. We're holding them like they're the absolute truth about the way he is, about the way the government is, the world is, the climate is, whatever it is. And so that's the second aspect that's important to know, to shift the reality that you're operating in, so that you are a true creator God, with free of all previous conditioning period. Let's just put it there. Right. And that is that there's from a quantum worldview, Zach, you'll pick me up on this. There's no fixed and absolute way that something is, because the nature of life is energy in flux. Everything is shifting and changing all the time. And we have been blessed by human birthright to be able to, in this case, there are a lot of other infinite creatures that we're all in relationship with, and we don't even realize it. People don't even realize, Gaia, that the earth is hosting us, not the other way around. Right? And so we better pay attention. But anyway, the idea of this is that if you can live from the perspective that there's no absolute fixed way that something is, let's say no absolute reality other than what you would think of as the source of all, but for everyday human life, that nothing is fixed and static, no matter how much physical or evidence, could be emotional evidence, that we have. But for 20 years, my boyfriend was selfish, no matter what.
Right.
What we bring is what we get. Why does one person think, oh, Joe, he's a dreamboat? Another person says, oh, Joe, that guy's an egotistical maniac. Why? Because what we bring is what we get. And it's something like the old, play Pygmalion, where because we exist in fields, and this is another aspect of quantum thinking,
right.
We are aware, and most of us are on this show with us right now, that we exist in fields. And so when you're aware of that, you realize what we're emanating, we're influencing. Okay. We have an influence on the other people in the field, or as I say, it takes one to tango in a quantum world, because when you shift your intent and you shift your state by virtue of that, not holding on to the old fixed patterns, ideas, assumptions, beliefs that are not serving what you were talking about, the upliftment of us all, that you can influence the field. So when you say, well, how do you, and we do work, the main part of our business right now is that we work with senior level executives in major high visibility corporations, mostly, some entrepreneurs, and then we have our programs online for individuals. But these are people, they're not what I lovingly call the consciousness crowd. They didn't wake up saying, maybe a little bit more now, but they weren't saying like, how do I elevate my consciousness?
No.
They're, that because you worked in corporate life. I think I heard you talking about that.
I've worked at IBM. I've had my own business. This is my second own business, but worked at IBM, and I ran a division of Arthur Andersen.
That's good. And Arthur Andersen, because we worked in Accenture, which became, the outsourced, that Arthur Andersen. But anyway, so before I came on this call, I was like meditating on, okay, well, Kathy and I, there's so many things to discuss, and I just thought to myself, what's important now, for all of us? And the first thing, I wrote down 3 things. Is that we have to blend, and I want to talk about that. We have to look at the big picture, and we have to take a life of mastery, like actually commit to a life of, this is what quantum think is for. Being master co-creators, not just, hey, we're creating, but how do we master it? And when you know these principles, which are principles of mind and awareness, how to use intent, I call the 5 natural faculties of mind: intent, intuition, subtle energy, how to work with that, resonance, and meditation, which I consider a faculty of mind, not just a practice. The practice, of course, is important to build it, but it's a natural state, the meditative faculty of mind. So hopefully, not hopefully, but we're all holding the intent that education becomes infused in the education. But getting back to the, working with people who are corporate leaders, that maybe, they didn't come into it from this aspect, but they can, but everyone understands when you start to infuse the actual discoveries of science that were shaping the result we're getting in life by what we hold in our resonant field.
Right.
Everyone gets this.
Right.
Why do they get it? Because we're all human. So what it how does it go from the possible world, like, somewhere deep embedded that we forgot about it? In spirituality, they call remembrance, which is one of the very important key things. Remembrance of what? Remembrance of your divine nature, and that you are an aspect of that. And so is everybody else, including Donald Trump. So I'll get to him. But anyway, what's important now, right? It's like
another show on him if you want. But this is so important, Dianne, because the thing is that most corporations, most large businesses are run on fear. They're not run on love. And so what you're talking about is an inner game. You're talking about the leadership having an inner game, having a new perspective where they're playing from the heart, from love, not just here, or not from ego. I mean, fear. It's fear versus love is the way I look at it. And what you're talking about is that shift, because the leaders thinking about profits and and almost looking at the old leadership model is profits. How do I use the people like they're part of a toolkit, and I need this screwdriver here. And I mean, I had 80 employees under me at Arthur Andersen. And so that's what we were doing. We were putting people on projects and making teams. The new team is built on love and appreciation, on wonder and excitement about co-creating together. That's the new quantum opportunity. Correct?
That's right. But, I feel a little bit differently than you do about the fear and love thing. But, but it's like our intent, we're in the same place. But you see that, and what you're talking about, that manipulation, that is, or as I say, maybe there's nothing wrong with us. Maybe we were just, at that precipice for a quantum leap to go from the industrial age, which was also called, as you know, scientific materialism. Only physical matter is real. Everything is organized around the ordinary five senses. In the physical domain, in the physical dimension, we look separate, we look different. You're black, I'm white, you're yellow, you're blue. And so you don't realize in the background of our culture, human culture, that has silently been conditioning. So it's not that people want to be manipulative. This is my view. It isn't that. It's that in the sense we haven't been at choice, because you can only choose when you have awakened awareness. Otherwise, you're at the effect of whatever patterns have come to you from the collective field, from whatever the family field, the ancestral field, your own individual, whatever you've developed as your patterns, what we call in quantum think, least action pathways. The way the energy or the thought goes, simply because it's been that route before. The most I borrowed, and I adapted it really from what Fred wrote about, Fred Allen Wolf. The least action pathway that is the least conscious, the most mechanical way. So how did everyone wake up in these companies that we work with? Because least action pathway is actually not one of the quantum think distinctions. It's part of the quantum think distinction number 3, called infinite possibility, that in every moment, this, superposition in science, in every moment, there's an infinite number of ways that something can manifest. And meaning even manifest how you think about it. That's a manifestation. How you think about something, how you land on something. And with that thinking, that you're going to bring that forth. But you see, what gets in the way of infinite possibility thinking? You know, in corporate life where you say, somebody brings up an idea in a meeting and they say, oh, no, we tried that last time. Yeah, that didn't work. Oh, we can't do that. We don't have enough financial resources. Oh, upper management will never go for that. These are what we call least action pathways. So we introduce people to what's in the way of infinite possibility thinking are the least action pathways that are just there. No blame or shame, not because they want to operate from fear. That's where I would say it a little differently than you. It's not like you're choosing to be manipulative. You're not choosing to be fear, because if anybody was an awakened choice, this is not something someone would choose. They would not choose to be, a nasty or limited individual, or, denigrate in any way, disparage yourself or anybody else. So this is what I say. You're not at choice in those situations. So when you have awakened thinking, so now what our clients do, somebody comes up with an idea and somebody goes into their least action pathway, Alan and I do it together. It's like, okay, that's your least action pathway. Don't give it any meaning. I say, blame it on the old worldview, the industrial age, classical mechanical worldview is another name for it. Blame it on that conditioning. Okay, what is our intent?
Oh,
and
that's
that simple. It's like something comes up. It's not serving anyone. It's limiting the experience that we want, the result, the goal, the outcome that we want. And you have these distinctions. It's part of the field, the vortex, the system. Oh, that's just a least action pathway. Okay, what is our intent? And you create from intent, realizing there's no absolute way that reality is, he is, she is, they are, the institution is, the corporate life is, the government is, and it's observer created, and the core, the dynamic that we have been endowed with by virtue of human birth to create with is the power of intent.
Yes.
And that is what happens. So it's like I always have said, I don't know how quantum think works. I just know that it works, and that I feel very fortunate to have it have come through me and to be able to share it with the world, with you, and everybody who appreciates it. Because what you're doing, you're reading, you are connecting to that principle in yourself. As you read, as you watch the video, as you listen, you're connecting to it. And I call this, it's the number 15 distinction, the art of distinguishing, a new worldview of learning. To your point, to bring something into your awareness right now, in this moment, in the present moment, in such a way that it transforms your relationship to it. So how do we get rid of victimhood? That way. What are we the victims of? You can actually begin to laugh about it when you realize, oh my God, I've been being a victim, and that's a cultural least action pathway. Poor me.
That's so
me. Yeah. I'm not a singer, but I try to be. Anyway.
Well, I'm afraid we're almost out of time. Zach has left some brilliant messages that you'll have to see afterwards, but he said, by the way, I agree with Dianne, just embellishing and having a good time. So you'll have to read. He says, the less I am me, the more I become infinite. So you'll enjoy what he says. But Dianne, I'm afraid we're out of time. So I've been putting up your website here, and then we also showed your book. How else can my viewers benefit from this new, it's new, it was published in 2011, but it's new enough, way of making conscious choices and being in the world? How else can they reach you?
Okay. Well, thank you for asking. And I just want to say that I call Do You Quantum Think the book a friend for life, because we always refer to it's the type of thing where you can just open it anyway and you'll get the non-local mind connection and you'll get what you need. And it's meant to be used over and over. And anyway, my
So you want the
favorite thing of the moment that I want to invite everybody because I created a 28 lesson, now it's called episode, a 28 lesson mastery course called Master Your Mind, Master Your Life. And it has 4 themes, that it's mastering the 5 natural faculties of mind, mastering high quality relationships, mastering a conscious relationship with money, and mastering living your purpose. So 7 lessons on each of those 4 themes. And it's me, I call it the ultimate selfie, but it's applying quantum think to those areas of life specifically, and me walking you through it. And then there's a PDF that's with it. But what I want to say is if you're interested in that masterclass, it's right now, it's on one of the platforms that delivers video courses, Thinkific, but the first lesson is free. And in the first lesson called Create a Quantum Mind Shift, the lesson's a little longer, 38 minutes, because I talk about the course and then I do the Create the Quantum Mind Shift. I show it 3 ways to create the quantum mind shift. And the last way, which I touched on a little in this show, that the last way will you can free yourself of negative thoughts, of not being stuck with them forever. Okay. And I made lesson 1 free for that purpose, because I want everyone to have it. And then if you resonate, you'll get the rest of the course. Okay. And that's on DianneCollins.com/masterclass.
Okay. And I'm showing that on the screen right now.
Right.
Okay. Great. Okay. And they can find you on Facebook. They can, Messenger.
Right. Instagram, everything. Talk to me on Messenger. I'm not on there all the time, but I get there eventually. Right, Kathy?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I'm good friends with Marbeth and Harrison, and I would love to be with all of you guys. That would be a fantastic dinner conversation or day or two.
I didn't realize. Come on down. Today's Marbeth's birthday.
I've been to Florida twice this year already, but
how did we miss each other?
Well, I was doing stuff.
Okay. Well, when you're here, we're definitely getting together. We'll have that dinner and we'll have fun. And I want to thank everybody who's listening with us live and everybody who's commenting. I'm going to read it afterwards. And everyone who will listen. And Kathy, thank you. I am so glad that we met virtually after hearing about you from all my different friends over the years.
Groupie fan for a while, but I just hadn't gotten to talk to you yet. But I mean, friend, I mean, the thing is I'm hungry for ways to help my people. And Zach wrote in here that, I shouldn't worry about them waking up. But I do feel like a lot of the people that I work with in my marketing for the past 19 years are the leaders, the thought leaders that are helping guide people to courageously guide people to a new way of thinking and a new way of experiencing and get out of the box. I mean,
you are doing amazing work because I've been really studying you. And maybe we'll talk about marketing too, but I just feel like you have such an expansiveness
thank you.
yourself.
Thank you.
And I really mean it. And that you're able to talk about like such a wide range of human experience, from business to marketing to the most esoteric subjects, and all with that great, beautiful heart of yours. And I'm just seeing all the work that you're doing. And I was just going, wow. She is amazing. So thank you for what you're bringing forth.
And Zach wrote to me, which he always has to get me a little bit. You can't do it for anyone. You can only guide them to follow. You can't drag them along. Good lesson. Thank you very much.
And that is so true.
And with that note, we better sign off. It's been an hour. So thank you, everyone, for coming. And please connect with Dianne and do yourself a favor. You need to know what's in this book. If you can take one of her classes, you will be the better for it. You will be surprised about how much more expanded you are, and that nothing is really impossible. So thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.